6 o'clock, I'll call the February 25th, 2020 meeting of the Wood County Board of Supervisors to order. This after, note for the record, we do have a quorum with all supervisors present. This evening we have Pastor Shelley Kyle from Bethlehem Baptist Church to give the invocation to rise and remain standing, pledge allegiance.
May we bow our heads in prayer. Most Heavenly Kind Father, we thank you, Lord, for this Board of Supervisors meeting. We thank you, Lord, for all the board and for all those that are present here. We ask your blessings and your guidance and your wisdom for the work that shall be done. May everything be done in decency and order, and that your will to be done in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is citizens' time. We have one person signed up, Mr. Gus Kincher.
Thank you, guys.
We can share. Thank you. Sorry.
That's all right, thank you.
Good evening. Yesterday, during the Virginia Senate Judiciary Committee meeting, 9 gun bills were passed from the House and will be sent to the Senate floor, and there's a 99% chance that they will become law. Of those 9, there is only one that you as a local government can do something about, and that's HB 421, which I gave you a copy of. When you passed a resolution making Wythe County a Second Amendment sanctuary county, which I thank you for doing, I heard several of you say that you would stand up and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Second Amendment, and I'm here this evening doing the same. HB 421 will eliminate Virginia's vital firearms preemption statute and grant Virginia's 95 counties and 38 independent cities the authority to enact severe gun controls. HB 421 will add subsections E and F to the already existing law, and those are in that handout that I gave you. Subsections E and F will allow localities to impose gun-free zones on public streets, roads, sidewalks and right-of-ways, buildings, any events, public parks, recreation centers, and community centers. These sections, in my mind, go against the Second Amendment and keep and bear arms. In order for this new law not to affect the citizens of Wythe County, not only now but in years to come, I would like for you as a board to pass an ordinance saying Wythe County will not exercise the authority given to them in Section 15-9-915 subsections E and F of the Code of Virginia. This ordinance will protect Wythe County's Second Amendment rights now and in the future. I trust everyone on this board will look into this matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, guys.
Mr. Barrett, just a question on what Gus spoke about. If we do pass an ordinance and 10 years down the road, a different board sits here, what's involved in doing away with the ordinance? Is it just another advertised meeting and a majority vote?
Typically, yes. Most of your ordinance have a section in them for, I don't remember the correct legal term here, but basically to repeal it, I think is where they got repealed.
Well, I mean, for example, we've got the noise ordinance.
Right.
If the majority of this board wanted to do away with the noise ordinance, the process would be,
Public hearings, and you have public hearings to repeal the noise ordinance. Yes.
thank you. That's all we had signed up for citizens' time. Anybody else like to speak that came in? Hearing none, I'll close citizens' time, move on to the payment of invoices. Entertain a motion to pay the invoices.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make it.
Have a motion, have a second.
I second that, sir.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any invoice that any member wants to discuss or pull out? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So moved. Next is the minutes of the previous meeting from February the 11th, 2020. Have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any corrections or questions about the minutes? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
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 So approved. Next on the agenda is old business. Have a few appointments yet to be made. I believe Ms. Collins sent out a list of ones that we currently have vacancies for. Does any board member have any appointments?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to appoint John Jones to the Planning Commission for East Whitfield District.
Have a motion to appoint John Jones to the Planning Commission for the East Whitfield District. Do I have a second?
I second.
Have a motion and two seconds. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. He's so appointed. Any other appointments? Moving on, under old business, other, Mr. Baird, did you have anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not have any other items under old business.
Does any other board member have anything under old business? Move on to reports. Communications, Ms. Darlene Lane.
Hello.
I am here tonight to give you all an update on the radio system, and where we stand. Pass out a little information packet for you so you can see where we were in 2017 and 18 and this past year for 2019. Just to give you a quick little overview, we've replaced the antennas on the towers, the wiring on the towers. We had a little bit issue with Hamilton's Knob, but I found out this morning that we were granted the deed and it has been filed, so it's ours, it's Worth County's. So tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I'm calling to get the guys up on the tower, and so we can get that part taken care of. It's been like 3 years, 4 years in the making, so I'm excited about that. We went live on the 14th of February, or 15th of February with the sheriff's office. They have now gone digital. I haven't heard any issues with the channel. They are able to call out on their portables from anywhere in the county. We've had one spot that's been an issue where they can't get out, and that should be rectified with the Hamilton's Knob. When we finish Hamilton's Knob, that should rectify that situation. I haven't found any place in the county that we've had an issue so far. I tested it from my home in Bland County, which is probably 30 miles from here, over several mountains on a portable. Worked great. We tested it in the basement of the hospital where you can't even get cell service, and it was crystal clear. So I'm extremely happy with the system. I hope the sheriff's office is happy with it. We're entering into phase 2. We're now doing the testing on the fire department side. That testing should complete at the end of this week to have them go digital. Their system is going to be set up a little different than the sheriff's office. They're going to have their own channels, but they will still be digital. And we started the testing last week. We should be done by the end of this week. And if everything looks good, we're going to move forward with that, and that should be done online in anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. And the rescue squads will be a couple weeks right after that, because theirs is going to be pretty easy. As far as the up and coming, the only thing that we're going to have left to do after the next 8 weeks, once we get everybody online and digital, is to upgrade the towers that we still need to upgrade. Hamilton's Knob, we're looking at Swakertown, we're looking at coming off of Pine Ridge, because that tower is just completely overwhelmed. But we're looking at finishing under budget, hopefully. So right now, we're about halfway through our budget, which is a lot less than what we even predicted, so that's a good thing. Do you all have any questions on the radios or the system in general?
I just will comment, it's been a long time in coming. Hamilton's Knob is definitely gonna help and not less other way, but I have received very positive feedback on the radio channels and improvements there, so I appreciate that, and get to the next phase of it, get that up.
I don't have any questions, Darlene. I will make a comment. I guess back in 2017, when Jason was still here, and he had that map, that coverage map, and he showed it to me, and I told him I was a pessimist, because I remember when cell phones first got popular, they had those maps, and when you bought them, they didn't work.
Right.
Couple places on the map. Thank you for all your work. Everybody agrees it's much needed, but the difference is just, it's unbelievable. Some of the convenience stores, there's a convenience store next to 60 years ago. There was a deputy that walked in on an armed robbery. A guy stuck a gun in his face, and he couldn't get out of the portal to the dead spot. Works great. So pleasantly surprised, and
Glad.
I'm interested in seeing how Hamilton's Knob, and I know the Chief Deputy Foster's in the back. You have anything to add, Chief?
Yeah, I just want to thank not only her, but I want to thank all of you on the board at the time the radios were purchased. I know the sheriffs came in and asked for those. They weren't they were in need. I just want to thank everybody who was on the board at that time, and we thank the clients, and I feel strong in my heart it's going to save somebody's life. And the communication was done real. Darlene's done a great job. Her, Mr. Newman, Mr. Dumford, and Mr. Crawford, they've all worked really hard. I just want to thank them again on behalf of the sheriff's office. Thank the board for that.
And Darlene didn't bring this up, but she did a really good job on the training, because there's some safety aspects, emergency channels, and give out GPS if you get it. And she did a really good job training and put together I'll call it a dummy manual.
It's a Monday morning manual.
Yeah. One Monday morning when you come out, you can't remember how the radio operates. But she put that together and just did a great job. The implementation, one of the SROs that lives over in Cripple Creek, pretty close to the county line, he talks on his portable in places that they can barely talk on mobile. So it's
Y'all couldn't figure out a way to block him?
But seriously, thank you. It's like you said, it's been a long time coming, but the results are much more than what I thought they'd be. So thank you.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it, but it wasn't me, I mean, the radio text that we've got. Okay.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Darlene.
Next, now that you guys are all happy.
That's what's money.
So, we have a next generation 911 system coming. Right now with 911, we work off of 9 independent networks within the state. And those networks can't talk to each other. It's 40-year-old technology. So basically, if you call in to 911 and say, I've got a family member in Montgomery County whose house is getting broken into, I need to get in touch with their 911 center, I can't connect you. I have to have you hang up and give you the number so you can call in to their non-emergency line so you can report it. Or I have to try to take the information from you and then call them and ask them to call you back. That's how old our systems are. Your Google phone can find you wherever you are all the time, 24/7. Well, 911 has to come up from where we are, and we're trying to get up to that point. So back in 2016, the 911 Services Board for the state gave the proposed legislation so that we could get all of those networks together and get off of that old system and go to a new IP system. It got passed in 2017, and Virginia Beach and Fairfax County put out some RFPs to see how much it was going to cost and who we were going to use, or who they were going to use. They sent it out to Verizon and AT&T and other service providers. In the meantime, the 911 Services Board has secured funding, which means as a locality, we don't pay for it. They're going to pay for it. It's all under their grant funding. It's probably going to take about 2 to 3 years before we see any of it. It's a long process. It's a connectivity process. But we need to start off this year, and there's a PAL agreement, which basically says we're going to agree that we're going to accept their funding, and we're not going to pay for the setup for it. However, this is the fun part. Sorry, I hate these presentations. The deployment schedule, we are scheduled for the last part of 2021. Right there. Northern Virginia is coming in first. And then they're gonna slowly work down our way. The good part about that is they're finding out it's costing more, and they're readjusting their payment schedules or their finances. But they're also working out bugs. They're working out all the kinks. They're doing it on that end. So when we get to our end, we should be pretty close to how we need to do it, how we need to configure it, and what the cost is going to be. There are many benefits to the new system. Like I said, it's an old 40-year-old system, so if you call 911 and when your stuff comes in to our 911 center, I don't know if everybody knows how this works, but there's a little bit of data that comes in. If you call from a landline, your address comes in. If you call from a cell phone, your latitude and your longitude gets triangulated by the cell towers, and it tries to give us what's called a ping. Sometimes that ping works, and we get a really good accurate location, and sometimes it doesn't, and we have no idea where you are. And that's just the way it is across the state. It's actually that way across the nation. Slowly, we're getting better at following those pings, but that's kind of the technology that we're working on. With the EZNet that they're proposing, they're going to move away from the landline because everybody's getting rid of their home phones and they're going to cells. They're going to get rid of those with that little bit of data, and they're going to go to a GIS or a latitude, longitude, or location type of system. And basically, that's going to take the absolute location of your cell phone, and it's going to send us that information. This EZNet allows all that to come across. It also allows us to take that whole bundle of information while you're on the phone, all of your data, and send it across the state. So if we have to send you over to Montgomery County, where they're breaking into your family member's home, we can do that in a click of a button. And we can do it right from the console. It saves minutes, which can save lives. Because in 911 seconds, it's all seconds. It's not minutes, it's all seconds. So with this, they're looking at doing the whole state. They're actually eventually going to be across the nation with this. Again, like I said before, there were 2 RFPs that went out. One went to AT&T from Virginia Beach, and then Fairfax, who has a lot of money to put into RFPs, did another one. That one also went to AT&T. The only difference between those 2 proposals was the time that you could re-sign for the contract. All the amounts of the pricing and everything was the same. And that contract is about a ream thick, so I didn't make copies for you all, but I did leave I think I did put in the address off of the VITA website, and you guys can go in and take a look if you'd like. It's good fun reading. So the deployment funding, it's all going to be provided by the 911 board. The legacy charges are the charges that we pay out right now. Those will also be, those will be covered over the next 2 years by the 911 Services Board through the grant. So that will help us with our monthly charges. They're also going to pay the difference between the new charges and the old charges for the next 2 years. So all that's going to get covered. The issue comes after those 2 years. This is where I'll need you to be happy. Okay. I don't want to put it up there, but there it is. So right now, our current charges with CenturyLink are $3,832 a month. That's about average. That's for using their network. The projected charges after 2021 is $6,246 per month. So it's going to go up a little bit. It's about $2,400. We will start paying that in 2021. It's not a huge increase for the type of services that we're going to be able to provide for 911, but it is an increase. And we're going to have to incur that cost. And that's kind of the bad news of it. But the good news is we'll be able to send over the 911 calls if we need. And if anybody needs to reach us, they can do it in a matter of a second rather than minutes. So, do you all have any questions on any of that?
And we
It's probably
continue to work in
confusing.
partnership with Bland and Twin County.
We do. Right now, we have connectivity. We're all on the phone, the same phone system as Bland and Twin. And Twin runs Carolyn Grayson. We did a grant a couple of years ago, that covered that, and we made sure we had connectivity. And now, basically, the state is just doing it statewide. So we've got our connectivity there. You have a PAL agreement, which basically just says that we want to accept the fact that they are going to finance the connectivity. It does not say that we're going to enter into the contract. It doesn't say which contract we're going to enter into. It does not obligate you at all, only to say that the county is willing to accept the grant funds from the 911 Services Board. So I just wanted to make that clear. And it's a local decision as to whether we want to go with the AT&T contract from Fairfax or Virginia Beach. The 911 Services Board has gone over those contracts extensively, and they're all advising that the Fairfax County would be a better contract, but we haven't hit that mark yet. So, do you all have any questions on that? Comments?
Mr. Barrett, how does this, the funding formula for the central dispatch with the 2 towns, how does that affect? Do they?
Basically, when the new charges come in, that'll all be worked into her budget, and her budget is split between the two towns. So it'll be calculated in.
It's actually the 24
Is not fully.
is not the exact increase, it'd be less than that by the time you figure out, I don't recall the per diem, but
Right.
what the town of Whitfield, the town of Richard paid.
Yeah, when you do the ratios and percentages, yes, that it'll be between each one of them.
And that's not something that they have to agree on. I mean, they don't have to agree that we enter a contract, whatever amount.
When we get down to the actual contract, she'll be meeting with that board and
Yes.
reviewing the contract, and then the contract will still come through us because you all are the, sort of the fiscal entity for that. But at this point in time, what we just need is basically just approval of proposal acceptance letter that we will work with the 911 migration program to start going to next gen 911. Never ends. It doesn't seem like that long ago when we went to what was the current one called, when we went to it and we started getting the GPS and stuff like that. I mean.
Oh, to MSAG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. But it's a good thing, and the state does provide funding to put the system in place. You do get stuck, and I use that term, but you get stuck with the operational cost after.
But it's needed.
It's an improvement.
And our cost is about their cost, I'm sorry, the state's cost is about 186,000, and that's generally speaking right now. But that could change as they're finding out that they've got bugs and everything on the northern side. As they rework their numbers, it could go up or down.
Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion for the proposal of the acceptance letter?
Entertain a motion to accept the final agreement as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second, any more questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, Mr. Terry.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Request your money.
Thank you. Do I have to request my money?
Or tell them we'll accept the free money.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Darlene.
Thanks, Darlene.
Moving along, we have the treasurer, Ms. Gwen.
Good evening.
Hi, Lori.
I don't
You
have
didn't say
a,
good morning this time.
I know, I sit back there and kept saying, don't say good morning, it's good evening, it's nighttime, so. I don't have a whole lot for you tonight. We're kind of just down to the basic stuff, but I'll begin with, the financial report that you received within your board packet for tonight. Currently, through the end of January, the consolidated account contained a balance of $66,648,128, and within that balance, the balance of the general fund was $44,889,011, which overall you'll see that we had quite a few expenditures during the month that decreased our overall balance from from December, but we're kind of at that threshold that we're starting to get into budget, and departments are starting to work more towards spending money that we have, because I know I'm doing the same thing for my department, but we're all trying to spend our money before we get into a new budget year, so you'll continually see a lot of expenditures increase. Any questions regarding the financial statement for January? Coy? Mr. Roberts? Any questions? He just kind of eyeballed me, so I thought, okay, he has a question. Okay, well, I'll move on then. Last month when I was here, I had given you an update of where we were at on our tax collections. And with January, the numbers you see on the financial statement also include a lot of the taxes that were due December 5th, because as I had mentioned previously, we were still processing those payments up through mid-January that had come in up through December 5th. So it took us quite a while to get through everything. So that's a lot of the reflection you see there as far as our revenue collected for the month. But last month, overall, I had given you a collection percentage of 91.6%, which was real estate, personal property, merchants capital, mobile homes, public service corp, all those taxes. The difference between then to now, we've only increased by 1%. We're starting to see more people come in right now with the flow over the last couple of weeks since income tax refunds are being processed, and a lot of folks are getting those. So we're really starting to see an increase. So by next month, I think you'll see a significant increase overall as far as our collections. With the license fees, we increased quite a bit with that. We're up to 71% that we've collected, but those are usually a little bit slower simply because of the vehicles. A lot of folks will get a bill for just the flat $20 license fee that they don't have tax that they owe. So sometimes we have to pursue other means to try to get those collected. But kind of overall, that's where we are with taxes. Any questions regarding that before I move on? Okay. That's 2 in a row. You've disappointed me.
When you're in the mid to high 90s, I'm really.
And your personal property is really what's keeping that down right now.
It is,
It historically is a March to April.
Yeah, personal
Where is
property,
that?
we're at only, just for personal property, which is not mobile homes or merchants capital, any of those items that bill out on those personal property bills. This is going to be vehicles, pull-behind trailers, things of that nature. We're only at 82%, so that's our lowest percentage other than mobile home collection, but it'll start to pick up as we move on through the next couple of months. The only other item that I have, I am excited to report again that as of Monday, I will be fully staffed. I have a new employee that will be starting full-time employment on Monday. So we'll finally be back to a full 5-person full-time staff. So I'm really excited about that. I think this person will do a great job for us in the office and for the county as a whole. But come on by anytime and meet the lady that's coming in, and even my other folks. If you're not sure who they are, we're there, and be glad to answer any questions or anything that you might need. So, but that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Commissioner of Revenue, Ms. Kathy Vaught.
I don't have anything unless anybody's got any questions.
Have the sheriff's report, Chief Deputy Officer.
The only thing we've got, Mr. Chairman, that's outstanding, I forwarded a letter to Mr. Barrett. He's got a grant there that he's going to sign for us to recover a $21,000 grant on some FLIR units. And also, I wrote a letter to Ms. Collins to send to him, but we have that 2013 Taurus out on Kent's Lane. We need to declare surplus if we can. It's at the end of life, and we don't have any use for it. So, but that's all we have pending right now.
And what we'll do on that 13 Taurus, we'll put it out on Gov Deals, and when the bids come in, we'll declare it surplus and sell it at that time.
And I think
We've
I
got a
forwarded
few
you
things
keys
we need to
that
get
one.
rid of
Okay.
out there.
While he's here,
I did not check.
we voted to donate the car to the school, and they've been using it. They went to Skills USA on Friday, and by having that car to actually practice with, they got a first place, a second place, a fourth place, and a fifth place. So that's quite an improvement over last year, just by having the car to use, so it was a good donation.
That's all.
Mr. Barrett, speaking of surplus, can we get rid of this van? I know nobody can find the keys, but
Oh, yeah, I was gonna sell it without keys as is, if nobody found the keys. Yeah,
maybe worth more without keys.
it's the old potato chip van that was the sheriff's,
Potato chip truck, it was a fire truck, and
yeah.
then it went to the sheriff's office. It's had an eventful life.
And again, I just wanted to reiterate again, on the behalf of the whole department, we do thank you a lot for the radios you purchased for us. It's been unreal. It's been like flipping a switch from night to day. It's been unreal. Thank you again for that.
You've been around a while, so you remember.
It's the best we've ever had in my 33 years. So we're actually able to talk to each other. So again, thank you all.
There's one of those police vehicles sitting up my hill, something major wrong with it, been sitting up 2 months.
No, actually, one of them had a rear seal replaced in it, and then Tommy done some transmission work, Tommy Dalton, on that. He's been doing most of our transmission work if we have any problems. So
Okay.
he does us a real good job, gives us a real good warranty on that stuff. So.
I just wanted,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
thank you.
Anybody have anything? Chief Paul? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Moving along with Buildings and Ground Committee.
The Building and Grounds Committee met on January 18, 2020, to discuss the following. The committee recommends to approve at no cost a rural addition resolution for construction of Kohler Avenue.
Health Committee does need a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 So approved.
We're also advised by V&M Recycling, they will be changing their plastic recycling to only accepting number 1s and number 2 plastics in the near future. They will do a public information initiative to advise citizens of the change.
Any questions or discussion?
I have, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, and this is for informational purposes only, just to let everyone know about that. And so that no action is needed by the board, but just wanted to let everyone know.
I was just going to ask you for more information about it, but is this actually at the convenience centers?
Yes. Used to be prior to V&M actually taking over the contract several years ago, number 1 and number 2 plastics were the only plastics that were accepted at the trash and recycling centers. When they came in, they had a market, and at that point in time, opened it up to taking pretty much all plastics. Markets on recyclables have gone through some tough times, and they have indicated that they are going to have to go back to number 1 and number 2 plastics. So, not set a clear date on it yet, but we wanted to just get information out. They've advised us of that. We want to work with them, make sure everyone starts sorting it, because right now, all plastics I just throw in the bin because they accept all of them. We'll
I
be down to
noticed.
1 and 2.
I noticed yesterday they had a sign already up saying they no longer accept plastic bags. So I didn't know, okay. Okay, that's all.
That's all from the committee.
Moving on to the Water Committee report.
All right, the Water Committee met on February 18th, 2020, and recommends writing off the following outstanding balances due to the property owners being deceased. Glenn Clark and Angela Simpkins at 573 Lone Ash Road for $844.39. Donald Burton Adams at 4875 Fort Chiswell Road for $946.71. Aiden Myers at 661 Lead Mines Road for $2,980.45. And Dorothy and Mildred Edmonds at 2762 Castleton Road at $946.71. I hope I got all them numbers right.
Mr. Baird, we need to do those one at a time.
You could do them as a block right there, as recommended by committee, would be fine, Mr. Chairman.
Coming from committee doesn't need a second. Any question or discussion to write off the 4 balances as presented by the Water Committee? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
So approved. Budget Committee.
The Budget Committee met on February 20th, 2020, and made the following recommendations. Transferring $14,084.34 from the Electronic Summons Fund to the Police Activity Fund, and to amend and appropriate the same to account 31021-470015 for the purchase of office printers.
Anybody have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Ah,
Aye.
So approved, 5-4 to abstention. Next,
Transferring $5,362.49 from the Commonwealth Attorney's Asset Forfeiture Fund to the General Fund, and to amend and appropriate the same to account 2201-470015 for the purchase of a multi-purpose printer, copier, scanner.
any questions or discussion about that recommendation? Hearing none, Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
ah,
Aye.
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 So approved. Go ahead.
Amend and appropriate $70,000 to account 31021-413300 for additional overtime funds for the Sheriff's Department. $63,000 of this is provided from the DMV grants.
Any questions or discussion on that recommendation?
I have a question. Is this gonna be every month?
Mr.
Do
Barrett?
not think it'll be every month, no. This will be, this will put the grant funds they've got back in there, and then the sheriff can look at that and see how far it goes. If he's gonna need more by the end of the year, he may need to come back and discuss more.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Ah,
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Is that all from the Budget Committee, Mr. Smith?
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on under new business, we have the consent calendar. Mr. Mayor, I believe there was one.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you have a handout in front of you, it's consent calendar. Item G, there was a typo on the salary. Instead of 33,475, it was 22,475. And on item J, it's listed as Water Department, and it was actually in the wastewater department, so you do have a revised cover sheet for the consent calendar.
Entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? No, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
ah,
Aye.
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 So approved. VDOT revenue sharing amended resolution.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Go ahead.
Previously, the Board of Supervisors had adopted resolutions for these 4 roads to go with our application for revenue sharing funds. When we did those resolutions, we knew the applications were due for fiscal year 2021, and our resolution indicated that it was for fiscal year 2021 revenue sharing program, but actually, the state requires it to be fiscal year 21-22. They've accepted our resolutions, but they recommended that should we be approved for funding for any of these, that we have updated and amended resolutions. So these are the exact same resolutions as you've approved before, with the corrections to fiscal year 21-22 for VDOT's program. I would recommend just adoption of all 4 of these in mass unless the county attorney has an objections to doing so. The 2020 03, 04, 05, and 06, I believe, are the numbers. Yes.
Entertain a motion to pass resolutions 2020-03, 04, 05, and 06.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? None, do a roll call vote, Mr. Smith.
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Aye.
So approved. County Administrator report, Mr. Baird.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. A few items there, action request items. On the first item, I am going to strike that from the agenda. Received some information today that may be looking at a different road name on that, so we will not have to worry about a road name request out in the Fort Chisholm district. The next thing is the Seven Sisters Tobacco Commission funds. You all have approved those agreements at a most recent meeting. I would just request authorization to the county administrator to issue the check to the JIDA for the funds of an amount of $30,000 when received from the Tobacco Commission.
Entertain a motion authorizing Mr. Baird to issue the check to the JIDA upon receipt of funds from the Tobacco Commission.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Any question or discussion? None, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
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 So approved.
Next item, Mr. Chairman, is just a short resolution. You all at the last meeting approved an agreement with the town of Whitfield and Wythe County Rescue Squad. Technically, when Wythe County Rescue Squad dissolves, all of their assets and everything come to the county. The agreement stated that that would be going to, everything would be going to the town, the agreement between both of them. This is just a resolution asking for, upon the dissolution of the squad, the conveyance of all rights, title, interest, and equipment, and personal property, accounts receivable, and accounts payables of the squad to the town, and for the conveyance of the 3 vehicles to the town also.
Well,
2020-08.
entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-08.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Mr. Baird, have we received the 2 vehicles that were not part of the agreement, or?
We have not received them yet, but I did talk about them. I did talk about the one with Lead Mines Rescue Squad at the Fire and Rescue meeting yesterday, and they would like to come and take a look at it, if not for operational purposes, at least for equipment and purposes, because it's hard to find anything to work on that. So they do want to come look at that.
Ms. Lane, please
I believe so.
tell her about that issue that took off. Any more questions or discussions? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
So approved.
Mr. Chairman, the rest of my items in there are informational items only. If there's any questions about them, I'd be glad to answer them, but will not go through them unless you all deem necessary.
What about the mutual aid?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did skip one, didn't I? My apologies. Yeah, you have just a general, we have, I think, a Town of Pulaski mutual aid agreement with Town of Pulaski and Wythe County, and I do recommend approval of that agreement. To assist the sheriff's office in responding to those areas.
Before we take that matter up, I will ask Mr. Barter, is this something I should abstain on? Maybe it's a benefit.
Probably on just the abundance of caution, I would abstain. Yeah.
Entertain a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Aye.
So approved.
Mr. Chairman, now, all the rest of them are informational items. And I will also, just for informational purposes, we did meet with county engineer and the water director, and I did meet today with the engineer that previously had done work on the Slabtown, Ivanhoe water line replacement. I talked about that to the water committee the other day, that some of the projects we've got. They did provide some good information about some recent grants that some other localities have gotten, and they're going to pull that proposal back up, look at it, and then have that coming to our water committee or board in the future to see about possible applications on it if we think we can get some grant funding for it. But that just did come up today. Just want to give y'all a heads up on it.
Anything else, Mr. Barry?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
County Attorney, Mr. Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing tonight I'd like to do is introduce you to another attorney in my law firm, Don Martin. He joined my firm. I'm expanding my local practice a little bit, worked for some other localities, and hired him in December to come help me with that workload. So you may see him at meetings instead of me at different times. But he's helping me with that among other things going on in my firm. But he's from Withfield and worked in Richmond and then Washington, D.C. for a little while, and finally got some sense and came back to Wythe County and decided to work here for a little bit. So that's Mr. Martin. A couple things to report on. As Darlene said, we received the deed for Hamilton's Knob. I got it Friday. Stephen signed it this morning. It was recorded, so it's in Wythe County hands, and she's going to go to work on that tomorrow morning to make those improvements. The other item is the parking ordinance, which I sent an email out on Friday kind of describing some changes that have been made to that ordinance. This ordinance had been sent to committee. Some notes came to me from that committee meeting with some recommendations. I also communicated with Ms. Gwen, who is going to be the one carrying the burden of doing a lot of this work from the parking ordinance with tickets and trying to get people to pay these parking fines. So she had some very valuable input. She spoke to some other localities about how they did things as well. So taking her input and the committee's input, I've revised this ordinance accordingly to give back to you all for your consideration, either to set a public hearing, to pass it, or to go back to committee and review it, or whatever your pleasure is.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion about the parking ordinance that Mr. Farley sent us?
I don't.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to comment that I have not told Ms. Gwen, I appreciate her input in working on this because what the information she provided and some of the things that were in there, her office collects money and collects things and sends these things out, so it made a lot of sense for her office to be involved. And I appreciate her willingness to help us and to also take on some of those responsibilities. It makes what I consider common sense to do so.
And, well, speaking of common sense, I'm going to thank Mr. Farley. I think it's a pretty common sense ordinance.
I appreciate that.
It's easy, I mean, you didn't lawyer it up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a hard problem, actually.
But honestly, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, and I think it's going to address the problem, you know, and include some other issues that are covered under the state code.
Right.
Should
you need it.
emphasize,
That's right.
you know, so I appreciate your work on that. Like I said, I read through it, and it's basically what I had in my mind, but
Okay.
I like the law too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, Mr. Bear, I assume we need to set a public hearing.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend setting a public hearing at least a month out to give us time to do all the advertisements. So we could set it for our March
Second
day
meeting.
meeting.
Second meeting in March.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote to set the public hearing?
I would
Yes.
recommend it, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
What was that date?
March 24th would be the second meeting in March.
Have a motion to hold a public hearing to receive comments about the parking ordinance on March 24th.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple other items to give you an update on. We're working on some building code violations that recently came to our attention. One is a mobile home sitting in a floodplain in the Ivanhoe area, and that's the one we're focusing on at the moment. But it's more of we have a floodplain ordinance. It's more of a violation of that ordinance than it is the building code. So we're trying to figure out what our next step is on going to circuit court, or if we have to pursue some kind of fine first. So we're trying to figure that out under the floodplain ordinance. The other thing, the water department has in the past done statutory liens with notices to the landowners or the water users. They can, if the notices are done correctly, they can just go record a lien at the circuit court, which would attach to the real estate. And the water department has asked that I look at that to make sure that we're doing that correctly. The challenge becomes is when a landowner has a tenant in the house, and are the notices going to the landowner correctly? Because that lien goes against what they own. So we just need to make sure we're doing that correctly, and we're going to be working on that in the future. But that's all I have to report on at the moment.
If a landowner has a rental house and the water is in the renter's name, you can put a lien on the...
I'm not sure about that
Okay.
yet. That's,
So that was, well,
yeah,
okay.
that's what I've got to figure out to see, because the landowner will come in and give consent for the tenant to put the water in their name. If the notice is done correctly, it doesn't seem right that we can do that, but we just need to figure out what's that process, because it is a much smoother process. If we can get that process down correctly, then the water department just gives the proper notice and records the liens, versus going through a warrant and debt process and that slow process to make that happen. So,
Yeah, and those code sections, 15.2, 2119.4, they have had some modifications over the last few years, that what signatures for and liens and the amounts and everything else, and it's not easy to answer, but that's what we're trying to make certain that we're following all the right procedures, we're getting all the right signatures, so we can do what we need to if we have to go against liens against property owners in the process.
that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Farley. Board of Supervisors report. Mr. Smith.
So I received a call this afternoon on the way home from work about the recycling center down at Fort Chiswell, around the recycle bins that we discussed there just a minute ago. They're saying that they were full, and the tenant said just to put it in the normal trash. So the resident that contacted me was pretty upset that they go to all this, take this time to separate things, and then when they get there, the bins are full, and the tenant are telling them just to throw it in the trash. So they're saying it's unacceptable as far as the county recycle center and us trying to make a positive impact on the environment and keep things out of the landfill. So if you could check into that, Mr. Byer. Also, I've got the Max Meadows Elementary parking issue on the road there. I don't know if you had an update.
Mr. Fowler has updated me. I don't have the information from him in writing yet, but they are looking at some signs and some corrections, and to understand they're out there measuring the right of way to make sure they advise the landowner to get the things off the right of way. But they are taking steps to address it. I'll see if I can get those in writing as to what those things are.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then I didn't know if you had an update on the issue that we brought up last meeting about the issue on Flatwood Road, on the tenant or the homeowner there that had a lot of trash per se.
Mr. Dunford has been there. He has, I want to say there's more than one residence down through there. I thought it was one. He said there's 2 or 3 locations he's actually working on down through that area that were needing to be addressed and attention. So it is being worked on and followed up through the property maintenance ordinance to clean those up.
And then keeping in line with that, Ivanhoe, I know I was over that way Sunday, and it's still a mess.
Yep, it is a mess. As Scott mentioned, the trailer is one item. I went by there last night, with fire and rescue meeting over there, so I got there early, and Mr. Terry and I rode down by there to look at it. Definitely trying to pursue removal of the house under the property maintenance ordinance as well for it. Some of the other than if it comes under property maintenance or trash or junk, is about the only option we have.
Because they're not living in the mobile home, right? It's just sitting there
It's
vacant?
just sitting there vacant.
Okay.
One thing about it, all that mess is about on somebody else's property. She lives out of state.
Right. It's like he's just took up residence on property it doesn't belong to him, which I know you well are then.
I wish we had more tools in the toolbox is what I wish on some of that, but we're at least gonna try to get the trailer, and if we can get work on the house in that process.
Yeah, and then on down the street there, you'd seen that mess as well, so I don't think that's actually their land either. I think it belongs to someone else, but anyway. Grouse Ridge Road, where are we getting that, work started?
I talked to Mr. Fowler this morning about that. All documentation is in from East Tennessee Natural Gas. I understand everything is gone to the Attorney General's office. They are supposed to be going ahead and setting up the construction signs out there. He did not give me a solid date for when they could definitely start. He has a contractor lined up to come in and mill it. But he said I have to get my number and permission from the state that everything is lined up to start that. I did ask him to look, because I know they can't bring in the outside contractors, but I asked him to look and see if there's any work that they could do with their forces in the interim, you know, to just at least improve some of the huge moon craters that are out there until it's actually milled.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'd be greatly appreciated with the residents up there, especially as wet as it is, and you've been down that road, I'm sure all of us has, but, I mean, you could lose a vehicle.
But they're planning to come in as soon as they've got authority to do so. They're gonna come in with a milling machine and mill all that up, and of course, use that for the base material that's down there, and that will be obviously far better than what's remaining of the old pavement road in there right now.
Okay. And then the last thing I have, Mr. Chairman, is I know we spoke about, when Mr. Fowler was here the last time, we talked about Connors Valley and reaching out to Mr. Kelly. So have we made contact with Mr. Kelly about the possibility of moving the road?
I have not made contact with Mr. Kelly, but I did talk to Mr. Fowler, and he indicated that, I don't remember at the time he told me if he was just coming back from a meeting down there or was going to a meeting down there. They're looking at some steps they can try to do to at least improve the situation down there, but they are working on that.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Can you give an update on the 5 lots of the road? Of the Apex Center?
Yes, sir. Week before last, on Thursday, the week before last, Mr. Kinser and I met with the contractor, the engineer, Hurton Profit Engineer, reviewed the plans, reviewed the traffic impact analysis, had a meeting then following up the next Tuesday, I guess last Tuesday, met with VDOT out of Bristol, and the engineer from Hurton Profit, went through their traffic impact analysis, what their recommendations were, what VDOT's recommendations were, so that they could finalize those plans. Basically, the VDOT will be requiring the left-hand and right-hand turn lane down off of Chapman Road. They will be requiring a little bit of widening and improving of Chapman Road at the intersection of Ready Mix Road, where you turn to go across the bridge on Ready Mix Road. So traffic coming up there would have a more defined right turn lane and a straight lane right there. That is an improvement over a possible thing of possibly looking at an entire signalization of the interchange. Entire signalization of that interchange puts that entire project out of our budget in the process. So Right turn lanes there, the right and left turn lane down at Chapman Road. The engineers go back and will revise or update their traffic impact analysis and submit that VDOT to get their final blessing so that it would have the approval to go out to bid with that. The long explanation, but that's, it was quite a bit of discussion over those 2 days of where we were.
So they are considering traffic from both exits at this point, right?
Yes, yeah. Traffic impact analysis had to look at traffic from both exits, what type of development is going in there, how the traffic will be going out. Be looking at also the road running through the Apex Center. That one eventually coming up to a state maintained standard so that traffic could also travel to and from there, which takes some burden off of exit 77 in the process. Does that help answer?
Can we try to get it on the agenda to discuss, do we still want to do that?
I think once we have once the engineering firm comes back with that design and proposal and everything to us, then it would come to you all at that point in time to review and decide to put it out for bids or how to proceed with that. So that they've got to finish their work, and then you have a document that you can decide how you wish to proceed.
So the funds has already been allocated for that, right?
The money has been borrowed for that, yes, sir.
But we haven't put it out.
Right.
So we can back out of
You've borrowed the money, but yeah, we'd have to look at options.
Anything else, Mr. Cook? Ms. Lawson?
So I'm working on something I think is kind of fun. I am in the very early stages of coming up with ideas, speaking to citizens about, you know, if they would be interested in maybe doing a boat ramp, more like a kayak ramp, on Reed Creek near the transfer station at Kent's Lane. And we've got some county property down there. And Stephen doesn't know yet, but I'm going to need lots of help from him to figure all of this out in his spare time. But but first, you know, this is a very inexpensive way to utilize our waterway. And, you know, I want to make sure that citizens would use it before we get any further with it. I also would like to look, you know, speak to the town. They've got the new park down at, you know, near the, what's their park? Yeah, near the dam. And I don't know what their plans are, if they're going to do a parking lot in that lower area. I don't know what their plans are, but if they would put a ramp in there on the town side, I think, Ms. Collins, is it 2 or 3 miles from the dam to something around there? You know, it's a fun little thing. It's fairly safe. It's a lot safer than I kayak the river, but it's a lot safer for a family to, you know, like I said, very inexpensive way, something that we can just look at doing the ramp. If the town isn't willing to do anything just yet, then maybe we could look at Max Meadows or just in the county to see some other options. And not this year, but, you know, in the future, then we'll talk about the shelter and the parking lot and the picnic tables and all the rest, so.
So I was going to throw out Max Meadows. AEP owns that one field, right? Is that correct?
I don't
Behind the
think
transfer
all of it. There's actually been a Blue Waves Trail looked at several years ago. And the town property was considered to be part of it. Obviously, the JPSA property was considered to be a location. And then also looking at the Max Meadows property. And I used to be on Board of Supervisors years ago. Olin Armentrout. It may be an Armentrout owning some of the property down in there as well. But it's either AEP or Armentrout. But that was an area that looked at. There are several individuals that do kayak these sections of the creek right now. Get out at the JPSA or put in at the JPSA and go down the river and take out at Max Meadows. So it's a very good tourism and local-based activity project.
And like I said, it's not going to cost very much to do. You know, we just need to hopefully look at that in the very near future. So first, I want to make sure that citizens will use it. I feel strongly that they would. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McRoberts?
I have 2 or 3, I just say mine to tomorrow, I thought Stephen on
Thanks, sir.
I don't have anything. I think everything I've had, I've talked to Mr. Bear, and he's taken care of.
Mr. Terry?
I've got a couple, sir. Stephen, they followed back up with me on our previous conversation where we talked about in the last meeting, the recycling center, trash dumps at out in the Cove. She's still very much interested in getting that. Apparently, she's talking back to the people that live out there. And so she was just looking for some update, and I told her, so we've discussed it, but I said that's as far as we've gotten with it.
And if you don't mind to give me, when you have a chance, to email me a contact name and information.
You
I'll
got
be glad
it.
to talk to them as
Awesome.
well. And we'll, if the chairman's all right, we'll put on Buildings and Grounds agenda just to talk about that, because that's typically where we've had trash and recycling centers before.
Awesome. The second thing I've got, it's more of informational purposes for everybody, but I've got a promoter that reaches out to me after an event at the Apex Center. This is the second time this promoter's reached out to me about poor management at the place. That's just to make everybody aware of that. I will reach out to the Apex board to let them know that there's an issue. These people are pretty much ready to pull their contracts, and that's informational purposes only. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I've got for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Terry.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have anything. I've had a few things I've discussed with Mr. Barrett. So far, so good. I'm trying to be like Corey. Next on the agenda, we have a closed meeting under Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, A1, discussion of personnel matters, and Section 2.2-3711, A5, discussion of prospective industry economic development. I'll entertain a motion.
May I interrupt you, Mr. Chairman? Would like to, for that motion, to have a couple of, A1 personnel is for performance review and hiring of personnel. A5 will be discussion of prospective industries, including Project Panel and Project Groove. And then also under A39 for discussion of a project. Project FC, I believe, is the project name on it. So I would request that A39 be added to that as well.
So, entertain a motion to go into closed session under those code sections as provided by Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
Have a motion, have a second. Second. Motion second, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Now closed session. Call us back to order for closed session. Do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second. What, do y'all want to stay in closed?
Do we need to read the certification now, so
Do your vote on your motion first.
roll call vote, Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Now the certification.
Mr. Robert?
Certification of a closed meeting, whereas the Witt County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.23712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Witt County Board of Supervisors that such a meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Witt County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies. And I suppose that's 1 and 2. So number D, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening a closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Worth County Board of Supervisors.
Have a motion to certify the resolution.
I make that motion.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Aye.
That?
Aye.
So moved. Entertain any motions coming out of closed session.
I make a motion that we move forward to hire the Sheriff Department and Commonwealth Attorney's IT position at a level 14.
And not to exceed level 14 on the IT scale.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Mr. Terry.
Aye.
That?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
So moved, 5-2. Anything else, Mr. Barry?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, that is not.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have one more thing. I actually need to withdraw the motion for the appointment that I made for John Jones for the Planning Commission due to potential conflict that I did not realize. He's actually on the town's Planning Commission, and my thought process was he's already certified. But there is, or there may be possible conflict there that we need to review further.
Mr. Barry, we need to take, is that an action item or?
It'd probably be best to take action to withdraw the nomination at this point in time, and then let Mr. Jones confirm that there's no conflict for him, and then come back at the next meeting and do the appointment.
So I assume that you were making that motion, Ms. Lawson. Have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Mr. Smith.
Aye.
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 So moved. Madam Clerk, you have anything for the board? Thank you for making the reservation. Nothing else to come before the board, we're adjourned.